Here is one fact that nobody, and I mean nobody in Nigerian political media is saying out loud right now. Peter Obi just made the biggest political move of his career. He left the Labour Party, he joined the ADC coalition, he repositioned himself completely for 2027. And yet, in every strategic calculation his camp has made since that move, the North barely appears. Not in his public messaging, not in his alliance conversations, not in his coalition architecture. Meanwhile, every analyst you see on your screen is debating whether ADC gives him a viable platform. Nobody is asking the harder question: can a coalition party with no serious northern structural base actually produce a Nigerian president, or is Peter Obi building a beautiful structure on sand? That question is not rhetorical. By the time we finish today, you will have a clear answer. But first, you need to understand something about Nigerian electoral mathematics that most people have never sat down and calculated. Stay with me. Before we go further, if you are new here, Naija Update 24/7 exists for one reason: to give every Nigerian, wherever you are, whatever region you are from, the political analysis that mainstream media will not touch. Hit subscribe and stay with me. This gets deeper. Let us start with what actually happened and why it matters right now. Peter Obi's departure from the Labour Party was not a quiet, behind-closed-doors exit. It was a calculated political repositioning. After the internal fractures, the leadership disputes, and the structural decay that followed Labour Party's extraordinary 2023 peak, Obi made a decision. He aligned with the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, as the platform for a broader opposition coalition ahead of 2027. Now, on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Labour Party was collapsing as an organization. You cannot fight a federal election with a broken machine, so you find a new machine. But here is what that move does not solve. The 2023 election exposed a ceiling, a hard ceiling, on what Peter Obi can achieve without the North. He won heavily in the Southeast. He performed respectably in parts of the South-South and Southwest, but in the Northwest and the Northeast, the two most vote-dense zones in the entire country, he was nearly invisible. And here is the historical context that settles this debate before it even starts. Every presidential election winner in Nigeria's Fourth Republic, Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari, Tinubu, every single one required either a commanding northern vote share or a cross-regional coalition with significant northern buy-in. This is not sentiment. This is not tribalism. This is constitutional arithmetic. Nigeria's electoral law, the INEC 25% rule, requires a presidential candidate to win at least 25% of votes in 2/3 of all 36 states plus the FTT. That means 24 states minimum. The North has 19 states. Even if you sweep every southern state, all 17 plus the FTT, you only reach 18 qualifying units. You still need 6 northern states to become president. 6. That number is going to follow us through this entire analysis. Remember it. And I want to plant something in your mind right now that we will come back to later. Later in this video, I am going to show you the specific northern states where Peter Obi's 2023 numbers were so low that even doubling them in 2027 would still not be enough. Stay with me. Let us look at the actual numbers from 2023. Not estimates, not impressions, numbers. In Kano, Nigeria's second most populous state, Tinubu and Kwankwaso dominated the presidential result. Peter Obi was a distant third. In Kaduna, historically one of the most politically significant states in the north, the result was APC heavy. Peter Obi's figures were marginal. In Katsina, Sokoto, and Zamfara, Peter Obi's vote share was in single-digit percentages. In Borno and Yobe, where security constraints already suppress voter turnout, the structural territory belongs entirely to the APC. Now, I want to be precise about what these numbers mean and what they do not mean. This is not about ethnicity. It is not about religion. It is about 3 very specific things: party infrastructure, local government penetration, and ward-level mobilization. Those are the 3 levers that determine presidential results in Nigeria's north, and Peter Obi's ADC coalition currently lacks all 3 in that region.
The constitutional war
is real. In 2023, Obi met the 25% threshold in approximately 12 to 13 states, and the vast majority of those were in the South. So where is the opening? Because there is one. The Middle Belt, Plateau, Benue, Nasarawa, Naija, Kogi. These states have significant Christian populations, deeply complex ethnic compositions, and a long history of swinging away from the dominant northern political bloc. Obi performed better here in 2023 than anywhere else in the north. If ADC consolidates the Middle Belt while making inroads in Kwara and Kogi, the electoral math becomes tighter. But tighter is not enough, not by itself. And now, here is the point that almost no analyst has made publicly, and it is the one that should concern Obi's strategists the most. The ADC coalition may actually make Peter Obi's northern problem worse, not better. Here is why. When a candidate moves from a party with a clear ideological identity, Labour Party, with its working-class, populist reform energy, to a coalition platform that many voters will perceive as opportunistic, voter enthusiasm in stronghold areas can drop. And in Nigerian elections, enthusiasm does not just shape sentiment, it drives turnout. If Obi loses even 15% of his 2023 Southeast turnout because Labour Party loyalists feel abandoned, he needs to gain far more in the north just to break even. The ADC switch is not automatically an upgrade. That is the uncomfortable truth. Now, let us talk about who benefits from Peter Obi's northern blind spot. Because in politics, every weakness creates an opportunity. And right now, several very powerful actors are watching this gap and moving accordingly. First, Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC. Every month that Obi fails to build northern alliances is a month that Tinubu's political operatives use to consolidate incumbency advantage. Across northern governorship structures, across traditional institutions, across federal patronage networks that reach all the way down to the ward level. Incumbency in Nigeria is not passive, it is actively deployed, and a fragmented opposition makes that deployment easier. Second, Atiku Abubakar and the PDP. Atiku is watching this with what I can only describe as strategic patience. If Obi remains southern heavy, the PDP's core argument becomes more credible by the day, that only a northern candidate or a genuinely federal coalition can challenge Tinubu with any serious prospect of success. Atiku, or a PDP-aligned candidate with northern roots, positions himself as the serious option for northern voters who want change but do not see it in Obi's direction. Third, and this is the wild card, Rabiu Kwankwaso and the NNPP. Kwankwaso's Kano base is not a media construct. It is real, it is measurable, and it is disciplined. Any credible path for Obi to northern viability almost certainly runs through some form of engagement with Kwankwaso's constituency, either through a direct alliance, through voter persuasion in Kano, or through a split that denies Tinubu his preferred margin. The question, and this is the question I want you to sit with, is whether Obi is actually pursuing that conversation. And then there are the silent stakeholders, the people whose names will not appear in newspaper headlines, but whose decisions will shape 2027 more than most public actors. Northern business elites who quietly backed Obi in 2023 are watching whether ADC has the organizational depth to justify their continued credibility investment. Civil society organizations in Kaduna, Plateau, and Abuja that mobilized obedient adjacent energy are now uncertain whether that energy has an organizational home. And northern youth on social media who were part of the movement are not automatically ADC members just because Obi is. Platform enthusiasm is not party structure. It never has been. Here is what makes this particularly urgent.
The ADC coalition's current strength appears to rest on southern opposition consolidation, bringing together anti-Tinubu energy from the southwest, south-south, and southeast under one platform. That is a legitimate strategy for reducing vote splitting in the south. But it does not solve the northern problem, and it may actually signal to northern voters that this coalition is a southern project wearing a national costume. And that brings me to the one move, just one, that political strategists say could change Peter Obi's northern calculus overnight. I will tell you exactly what it is before this video ends, and it is not the move most people are expecting. Now, if what I just told you surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know what you think before we get to the part that changes everything. I want to step back now, because this story is bigger than Peter Obi, bigger than the ADC, bigger than any single political actor. This is a story about whether Nigeria gets a genuinely competitive 2027 election, and every Nigerian, north, south, east, and west, has a direct stake in that answer. When opposition politics in Nigeria remain structurally southern, two dangerous things happen.
The first validates a narrative that incumbents weaponize. They claim that any southern-led movement is sectional, not national. That narrative is then used to delegitimize opposition credibility with northern voters before a single campaign poster goes up. The second, and this one is more serious, it deepens the cycle in which Nigerian presidents are effectively chosen by regional elite negotiations rather than genuine mass democratic competition. When the North sees no credible opposition candidate with real northern roots, northern voters either stay home or default to the incumbent. That is not democracy working at its best. That is democracy being managed. And here is the economic reality that ordinary Nigerians rarely connect to political structure. A weak, fragmented opposition means reduced pressure on the incumbent to perform. Political competition drives policy responsiveness. When Tinubu believes 2027 is already secured because opposition is regionally contained, the urgency to deliver on fuel subsidy removal promises, on inflation, on naira stabilization decreases. Every Nigerian pays that price. Not just voters, not just politicians, everyone. Now, here is the statistic that stops most people when I share it. In the 2023 election, more northern Nigerians voted against the PDP than voted for Peter Obi. Read that again. More northern anti-PDP votes existed than Obi received from the entire North combined. Think carefully about what that tells you. There is a reservoir of northern voters available to an opposition candidate who is willing to do the serious work of northern coalition building. That reservoir has not been claimed, not by Obi in 2023, and not yet by ADC in 2027. The question is whether anyone will claim it. Now, I want to deal honestly with the strongest arguments against everything I have just told you, because serious analysis requires it. Argument 1. Peter Obi's integrity and his Anambra governance record speak for themselves. Northern voters will come to him. This is the most emotionally appealing argument in the Obi camp, and it is the least strategically sound. In any democracy, not just Nigeria, voters do not travel to candidates. Candidates must travel to voters. They must build trust through visible presence, party structures, town halls, local government engagement, visible policy commitments to northern communities. Integrity is necessary. It is absolutely necessary, but it is not sufficient to win an election. Argument 2. The ADC coalition itself will bring northern partners who close the structural gap. This is actually the most legitimate defense of the ADC move, and I want to give it its full weight. If ADC actively recruits credible northern political figures with real ward-level structures, not ceremonial titles, not press release names, this argument becomes powerful. The question is whether that recruitment is happening at the depth required, or whether the coalition is primarily southern elites presenting a national flag. Argument 3.
2023 proved that youth mobilization can overcome structural deficits. No, 2023 proved the ceiling of youth mobilization without party structure. Obi came third. The obedient movement was extraordinary, genuinely historic in its energy, but it was not enough, and a structural deficit in the north was a primary reason why. And now, the misconception I hear most from commentators who should know better. Obi does not need the north. Southern consolidation is enough. We already showed you why this collapses mathematically. 17 southern states plus the FCT gives you 18 qualifying units under INEC's 25% rule. You need 24. The north has 19 states. You cannot become president while being structurally absent from the majority of northern states. This is not opinion. This is the law written into the Constitution. The national interest conclusion is this. Whether or not you support Peter Obi, Nigeria needs a competitive 2027 election, one where the incumbent is pressured to perform, one where voters everywhere feel represented by viable alternatives. That is a Nigerian interest, north, south, east, and west.
So what do we watch for? What are the signals that would tell us whether Peter Obi and ADC are actually solving this problem or performing the appearance of solving it? Signal 1. Does ADC announce a structural partnership with a credible northern political figure, a sitting governor, a former senator with real-world machinery before the end of 2025? A cosmetic northern coordinator means nothing. A structural merger with northern political machinery means everything. Signal 2. Where does Peter Obi physically travel between now and early 2026? If his appearances remain concentrated in Lagos, Abuja, and southeast states, the northern strategy is absent in practice. A candidate serious about the north goes to the north repeatedly, publicly. Signal 3. Watch the NNPP. Any conversation, even informal, between Obi's camp and Kwankwaso's structure signals that the northern problem is being taken seriously. Silence between those two camps by mid-2026 will be the loudest signal of all. I told you at the beginning of this video that I would reveal the one move that could change Peter Obi's northern calculus overnight. Here it is. A publicly announced, structurally real alliance with a northern governor, sitting or former, who controls ward machinery in at least 2 northwest or northeast states. Not a press conference, not a signed communiqué, a joint rally in Kano, in Kaduna, in Sokoto, with real crowd mobilization and local political weight behind it. That single event would reframe the entire 2027 conversation in 48 hours. The question, the only question that remains, is whether anyone inside Obi's ADC coalition is serious enough to make it happen. We began with one question. Why is Peter Obi still ignoring the North? The honest answer is that we do not yet know whether it is by choice or by incapacity. The ADC coalition could become the vehicle for genuine northern outreach. The electoral mathematics can be solved with the right alliances, the right timing, and the right political will. But windows close, and in Nigerian politics, they close faster than most people expect. The 2027 election will not be decided on social media. It will not be decided by diaspora enthusiasm or viral moments. It will be decided in the wards of Kano, in the local governments of Kaduna, in the polling units of Borno, and in the voting booths of Plateau. Peter Obi knows this. His strategists know this. The question that remains, and the one Naija Update 24/7 will keep watching, is whether knowing it is enough to make them act on it. If this analysis gave you clarity, share it with one Nigerian who needs to understand what is really happening. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Naija Update 24/7. We never stop watching.